What's shaking, everybody? Welcome to a Wednesday edition of House Divided right here on Orange Bloods Live. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That is Chad Hastings. We're going to be with you for like an hour or so. So buckle up, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, get notifications. And oh, by the way, we'll do a super chat or two if you have those as well. Regardless, if you're watching live, jump into the Specs chat. Specs, the sponsor of all of the chatting that takes place on every single Orange Bloods live video. We love their partnership. Looking forward to the football season. And Chad, speaking of looking forward to the football season, you and I are having a conversation today. We're talking about things that, what can we do on a Wednesday? And we went through a variety of ideas, and then it just dawned on me. Not you, one half of House Divided, I kind of want to have an Aggie conversation today. There is, the closer we get to Texas and Texas A&M playing, but also just this first season in the SEC, the more that game in College Station fascinates me. I think the Aggies are one of the more fascinating teams in college football because the talent level suggests one thing. I don't know that the rest of the country is suggesting the same thing that the talent suggests should happen. How poised are they to be a problem for the Longhorns this year? I want to have a good old-fashioned conversation about the Aggies and try to figure them the hell out a little bit today on the show.
All right, fair enough. And for clarification's sake, again, his idea. Not my idea.
No, this wasn't like Chad finagled me with some Aggie smarts.
No. Every time someone on the Aggie side of things complains to me that we don't talk enough Aggies, I always remind them it's House Divided. It's not House Divided evenly, but most importantly, it's what the Orange Bloods Live community wants to talk about. And when Ketch wants to talk about it, that's when we talk about it. So, but I do think it's a fascinating conversation, Ketch. We're 80 days from kickoff for Texas and Colorado State. We are less than 3 weeks away from Texas officially as an SEC team. And that game is going to be one of those rivalry games late in the season in the SEC that's going to mean even more than they used to. They always mean something. But each of them will now have the potential to mean even more because of the expanded playoff.
Yeah, I think a couple of things. I think that this is a game that everybody across the nation will look forward to.
I'm with you, Mark. I can't believe he wants to talk about it. Just can't believe it. How dare you?
I'm devious sometimes. Sometimes I want to scratch where it itches, even if it's in a place you're not supposed to scratch. Billy Lucci was talking about this game about a week ago. And he mentioned that, there's a good chance that these two teams come in 9-2-ish. You look at the Texas schedule. I don't know that that's the thing that everybody's predicting. But certainly with games against Michigan and Georgia and Oklahoma, you don't have to try too hard to imagine, okay, Texas might have a couple losses. You look at the A&M schedule. There it is right there. There are probably 2 losable games on the front half of that schedule, and they are what you think they are. And then leading up to the A&M game, maybe there's a couple as well. You certainly don't expect that Texas will lose all of their tough games, but they do have some tough games. There could be as many as 3 or 4 playoff teams on this schedule. And then I just started thinking about, A&M, their schedule is such. They could be 9-2 as well. I don't know if I'm predicting that. And I don't think I am. I've been kind of on the 8-4 fence. Yeah. But if you go 9-3, Chad.
Let's give people a peek at that one real quick.
Take a look at that. Yeah. It's not overly imposing. You're at Florida. We've just said yesterday, what the hell do you really know about Florida when we were talking about that 11 a.m. kickoff? You start scrolling down the schedule, the Missouri games at home, that'll be a little difficult. I don't know what Mississippi State is. I don't know what South Carolina is. I don't even know what Auburn is. Mm-hmm. And then you're done. There's no Georgia. There's no. Did I miss LSU?
LSU's there.
Where's LSU? There they are. So they get LSU at home.
Yes.
But there's no Georgia and there's no Alabama.
That is correct.
And I think on paper that if you take the Texas game out of there, Chad, the two toughest games on paper look like Missouri and LSU, and you're getting those games in College Station.
Yep, both at home.
The road games look tricky, and I expect that A&M will lose one of those games. Somewhere along the line, they'll drop a road game. But it's not out of the realm of possibilities that these two teams are playing for something important and that it's a winner-take-all game. I think most Texas fans kind of view A&M as a joke. They feel like Jimbo was a bit of I don't want to say clown. I think a lot of Texas fans thought he was a clown, but I think most Texas fans realized, or at least viewed him as a guy no longer at the peak of his powers.
Mm-hmm.
And his football team's a reflection of that. Elko doesn't bring enough weight behind his arrival that he scares you even a little. Maybe he should. Maybe Texas fans should respect Mike Elko more than they do. But I think they look at A&M and they go, they're not on our level. Some people I've talked to think that Texas wins the game in College Station by 4 or 5 touchdowns, that it's just that much of a walkover. And I don't see that game this far out from being that. But I really don't know what the hell Texas A&M is. Maybe most of that begins and ends with Connor Weigman. Who is he? What am I really supposed to think about that guy as he goes into year 3? The Aggies are really fascinating. I don't always say that about them, but this year they really are.
If you want to jump in on the chat, as Ketch mentioned, the great folks at Specs bring us the chat. First off, let's let them have their say real quick. Lisa will tell you about Specs, and then we'll get that first chat in.
Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
All right, we checked the Specs chat. Nice simple one from David. Says, can't wait to renew the A&M rivalry. David, I don't think you're alone in that one. And here's one catch that involves two of those big rivals. Michael says, A&M and Oklahoma look really similar on paper. Potentially great D, shaky O-line, good talent, but maybe not elite at wide receiver and running back, and high upside quarterback. But OU's offensive talent is scarier to me than A&M. So that's one person's opinion. Ultimately today, I think if you're a Texas fan, we'd love to hear from you on the chat. Whether you want to call it a concern level, we threw the title in as danger. How dangerous? And maybe that's the way we should ask it, Ketch, on the danger level. How much danger is a Texas fan feeling right now from A&M, Elko, Colin Klein, Weigman, whatever you think they're going to put on the field? How dangerous do you think they could be by the time we get to November and that huge game?
That's the thing. I don't think Texas fans view A&M as dangerous.
I know. I agree.
I think them as a team that got its coach fired.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of Texas fans think, everybody that was at A&M that was any good transferred.
Yeah. The one reaction I keep hearing consistently, Ketch, from Texas fans is that they believe Mike Elko is average with a capital A. They don't believe he is, insightful. They don't believe he's a big time football guy. They think he was the best A&M could do. That's the message I keep hearing from Texas fans about Elko. So I think that's kind of where it starts, because obviously he's the tip of the spear. Interesting analogy that I would use since it was Jimbo. But, I just, would you agree with that? I just don't sense that they don't think Elko's dangerous at all. And they hear Colin Klein's name and there's a big that comes from Texas fans.
Bingo.
Right?
I don't think anybody thinks that A&M's coaching situation is terrible. I think they thought that about Jimbo. I think they thought Jimbo sucks. Mm-hmm. And I never thought that about Jimbo. I just thought Jimbo lost his magic. That it's not the kind of thing that you hold on to forever. Look at Mac Brown. He's been back in coaching for a long time. But the Magic, that was back in 08, 09, and then he has never had it since. Never. Jimbo, kind of the same thing. I think he lost his magic. They always assume that it will come back. I just think they look at Elko and think that he's okay. And against the Texas coaching staff, okay's never going to get over on Steve Sarkisian and the staff that they have. I think Elko's more than capable. I think he's done a really good job. It's not about the coaching for me. I look at this A&M team, and Texas is more talented than A&M. It happened really fast. A year ago, A&M had more elite level prospect super blue chips. That's my term. They had more on their roster than Texas did by kind of a considerable margin. Texas hadn't yet made up that ground. Over the course of this offseason, A&M lost a lot of talent. I mean, my God, the transfer list reads like a recruiting class is the way that it reads. It reads like an entire recruiting class full of guys that were pretty badass. I mean, it's staggering when you think of, Walter Nolan and Evan Stewart, and I don't even count Denver Harris anymore, but that's a guy. Labius Overton, you kind of just go through Chris Marshall was a guy that was supposed to be something and never really emerged as that guy. But I still look at A&M, and I've done the numbers. They're fifth in the country in terms of super blue chips. Forget about who they're not. A&M has more super blue chips than number 6 Miami. They have more super blue chips than number 7 Clemson. There's actually a big tie. They've got more super blue chips in Oklahoma. They've got more super blue chips in Oregon. They've got more super blue chips in LSU. I mean, that's already been a thing, but they've got like 1.5 times the number of super blue chips in LSU. I think we think of LSU as being a superpower, and from a talent standpoint, it doesn't look that way. They are 5th in the country in terms of raw talent. So I respect the hell out of the talent that's on campus. They've got guys like David Hicks Jr., who was a 5-star defensive tackle from 2023, who's not even quite able to get into the starting lineup yet because they've got guys like Shamar Stewart that a little bit older, and is it Shamar Stewart or Shamar Turner? Which one?
They've got one of each.
They got the Shamars still.
They have both of them. Whichever one you'd like, they've got both.
So they got multiple Shamars, and what are you going to do? Even if you're David Hicks, so part of this was I got to thinking about it when we were talking about the defensive tackle position yesterday. A&M didn't have one defensive tackle on that Pro Football Focus list of top 10 defensive tackles, and yet I feel like if NFL general managers or scouts were putting together a list of the guys they were most interested in, A&M would have maybe 2 guys on that list. And then I started thinking, that's that whole thing about this A&M roster. It's actually low-key very talented. A&M's talent says they should be in the playoff. Forget about their schedule. Forget about anything else. As a golden rule of thumb, if you have one of the top 5 most talented rosters in college football, and there's a 12-team playoff, you have to almost underperform at great lengths to not make the 12 if your talent is that good. So on paper, A&M should be every bit as threatening as everybody on the Texas schedule other than Georgia. I mean, A&M's got more super blue chips than Michigan, so the talent's not going to be an issue. I will say, though, the Weigman thing is really curious. I know you watched Weigman in every game last year. I feel like I mostly did. And there are times that I guess the Miami game just sticks out in my head. I was thinking about this earlier today, Chad, after we'd already agreed we're going to have this conversation. A year ago, Quinn Ewers went on the road at Alabama and beat them by double digits. In one of the only games that proved to be a real test for A&M while Weigman was still on the field, he went on the road to Miami, and that didn't happen. He didn't deliver a big-time performance and carry his team to a win the way I think Ewers gets credit for. So when I think about these two quarterbacks going into the season, for as much nitpicking as we would do on a Quinn Ewers, he's gone on the road at Alabama. Kind of that thing that we talked about Johnny Manziel when Manziel was still playing. It was like, look, that dude went to the belly of the beast and survived and conquered, and you got to give him his love for that. I kind of feel that way about Quinn Ewers, who, oh, by the way, won his team a conference championship, got to the playoffs. For all of the nitpicking, it feels like Connor Weigman doesn't belong in the same sentence as Quinn Ewers at this stage of his development, and yet I think we're seeing Weigman get spoken about kind of in Ewers' terms. I don't know what that completely means for either player, other than with Weigman, you know that people are eventually expecting an NFL talent to explode out of that kid. It just probably hasn't happened yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just double checking the numbers from last year. It was 336 against Miami. He threw 2 interceptions to go with 2 touchdowns. And remember, they gave up 48 in the ball game.
No, you couldn't put that game on him. But I don't remember watching that. Well, you and I did live commentary of that game. And that was the game, right?
Yep.
Same day as the Alabama game, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I'm just trying to rethink how the schedules were pieced together. We did the double header of watch-alongs. He's really talented, and yet he just hasn't taken steps. And I think this A&M team in 2024 goes as far as Weigman can take them. If he does take the step, this is a dangerous A&M team that absolutely can make the playoffs. If he's hurt or he's still going through growing pains, then it's an A&M team that can probably get pulled back against teams that aren't as talented as them. And suddenly you find yourself in coin flip ball games that on paper it says you shouldn't be involved in coin flip games with. And the thing in college football that more times than not keeps you out of coin flip ball games is having a real advantage at quarterback. And look, man, put that schedule back up, Chad, for A&M when we talk about them.
Okay.
If Weigman stays healthy for the entire season, and we look at the schedule, I know I just threw that out you.
No, that's fine. Let me throw this version of it up because it's a little cleaner. It's got Notre Dame, and it does have, I think they're all in there.
So look.
This is most of it, yeah.
When we talk about quarterback advantages, because I think we do this with Ewers in Texas. And it's one of the reasons why you're like, Texas against Michigan. And you're like, we don't even know who their quarterback is. So you can go through the Texas schedule, and really, other than the Georgia game, if you're a Texas fan, and oh, by the way, that's probably the only game right now that Vegas would have you as an underdog in. If we look at this schedule, so you've got Notre Dame to lead off. Let's come back to the Notre Dame game in a second.
Okay.
Read the rest of those out because they're in little bitty print, and I can't completely see it.
So it goes from Notre Dame to McNeese, then at Florida, then Bowling Green at home, then Arkansas, and then the Missouri game at home.
So before we get to Missouri, I don't think there's a game there that I would say that A&M doesn't have a quarterback advantage in.
Yeah, one of the first big questions for me, Catch, is could they be 5-0 or 4-1 going to the Missouri game? Meaning,
I think to me that looks like 4-1. I don't want to say at worst.
Just can they handle the swamp, and can they handle that home game against Notre Dame? If you get them both, obviously you got a chance to be 5-0 if you beat Arkansas going into a big home
Which
game.
Is a game that A&M fans are probably, for good reason, they just assume that's going to be a W.
Right, because it's been a win every year but one. So
every year. It just is what it is.
Right. They've only lost one of them. So that one's got a little that potential there. I would agree with you, though. And obviously LSU's re-racking at quarterback. God, I'd have to double check the Auburn quarterback situation. It feels like everybody's been going in and out of there lately.
No, you work your way. I'm looking at the schedule. The quarterbacks that I think A&M today would look at and say, who do we have to worry about? And I think it's Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Notre Dame. And then you're probably just giving Missouri. Do you know who the quarterback from Missouri is?
Yeah. What's the cat's name? Brady Cook is his name, I think. That guy's good. He's good, and right now I'd probably give him an edge based on his team and what they've done. That's a game that right now I would say is a loss for A&M.
Even though that game's at home.
Correct. Also, catch that one is a bad news game for A&M. I think you want all your big home games at night, and you want all your big road games in the morning. That's an 11 a.m. kick. They locked it in. So I think that's a huge
disservice. If you're an A&M fan, you want that game at night all day long.
You darn right you do. And that's an off week for Texas as well. It's a game I'm going to. And I was hoping, like, hey, let's get an afternoon, get a night kick, get a full day of build-up because Texas.
No, you'll be home at 7, Chad.
Because when Texas doesn't play, the Aggies have to make a statement. The Aggies have got to, now that this...
They'll have a platform to make a statement.
Right. They'll have a platform, but it's an 11 a.m. kick. I just wish it could be a little later. But that's a game to really focus in on if you're talking about some of these early games. Also, the game at Florida. Both of those teams are going to have, there's rumors. One's getting a new coach. The other's rumored to be getting rid of their coach at some point. What happens at the Swamp on September 14th is going to be overblown both ways, just like the Notre Dame game. I think those are two games where A&M, they're going to get, to me, they're going to get overcooked and undercooked all throughout the season. There's going to be just a whole bunch of unfair comments about A&M. And if they beat Notre Dame, they're going to get way overcooked. But if they lose to Notre Dame, they're going to get buried. And everybody's going to throw their Mike Elko jokes out, and they're going to have to recover from it.
Here's the thing. If we think about who the best quarterbacks, this is, I guess, ultimately, if I'm an A&M fan, I think my expectations, if I'm the average A&M fan, I'm drinking this Weigman as a first-round draft pick, a dark horse, top of the NFL draft quarterback thing. I'm slurping it up. It's easy to believe because at his best, you see an NFL talent. All A&M fans would need to hear is that someone else who's not an A&M fan say, that Weigman guy, his underlying statistics are really good. He just takes a baby step and stays healthy. Watch the hell out. And I think that's completely fair. If I was an A&M fan, I would hear that and I would say, okay, let's talk about who the best quarterbacks in the SEC are. Carson Beck's probably number one based on just everything that everybody said. I don't think that's too controversial. You might even concede that Ewers is 2. We'll hold that back.
Mm-hmm.
You don't play Jackson Dart at Ole Miss.
Nope. Don't play Milroe.
You don't play Milroe from Alabama.
And you don't play Beck, obviously.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So suddenly you get to the
Missouri kid might be the best they're going to play other than Ewers.
I was just about to say, now you're at the Brady Cook level, the Tennessee kid, but you don't play Tennessee.
Nope.
You don't know. If I'm A&M, and A&M's had moderate success, at least with LSU, that has been a game where, they played some wild ones, to be quite honest. But I don't know what Garrett Nussmeier is. So I'm definitely not going to say that we wouldn't have a quarterback advantage in that game if I'm an A&M fan. And then you start getting into what the hell do we think about Graham Mertz? Really?
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned Mertz because somebody threw in the chat like Mertz, somebody had Mertz solid, played well.
He had 20 touchdowns and 3 interceptions last year.
Yeah, played well for last season, whatever that means. It's a good point. It's
72.9% of his passes. Are we sleeping on Graham Mertz? I'll tell you what. I just read Graham Mertz's statistics, and suddenly that Texas-Florida game feels a little trickier.
Well, and that's why I brought up the A&M Florida game. And of course, Catch, now we're in a world again where Texas fans will not only watch the Aggies for how they develop as a team, they'll get looks at some of their opponents. So they get to, if you want to peek in on that game, A&M at the Swamp, Florida is coming to Austin later on. So
when is that A&M Florida game?
September 14th.
Is it the second game of the season or the third?
It is the third game of the season.
Boy, that comes early. So you get McNeese the week after Notre Dame.
Right. Notre Dame. Yeah, this schedule, you got to go back and forth, right, left. Notre Dame, McNeese, then the Florida game, and then Bowling Green, and then Arkansas.
We'll know everything that we need to know about the Aggies by September 15th.
Yeah, and that's what those two games, they're massive. And like I said, there's an overcook, undercook thing. Can they be 5-0 by the time they play Missouri? And then if you really want to dream, if you're an Aggie fan, could you possibly get to 7-0 by the time you play LSU? If you handle Missouri,
you got to slow down. You got to slow down.
If you handle Missouri and Mississippi State, that would be a 7-0. Okay, let's take. Could it be 6-1? Could it be 6-1 going to the LSU game?
The Florida game's in the Swamp, right?
In the Swamp.
I think 6-1's doable.
Okay.
But it requires A&M to avoid stepping on their you-know-what.
Yeah.
But again, that game in South Carolina should be a win. But are we 1,000% certain that they're a mature big boy college football team who goes on the road at tricky, just the way that's not the same as Arkansas for Texas, but in principle, it's kind of the same thing. You have to respect going on the road in the SEC.
But that game is Arkansas to them too, Catch. It's exactly the same thing.
It's exactly the same because of the record in that game.
One time, home or road, whoever the coach is, whoever the team is, there's no Aggie on earth that is, yes, every game is every game, but every Aggie on earth thinks they need to beat Arkansas and South Carolina because that's what they've done.
So Jefferson hits us with our first super chat of the day, $4.99. Thank you, Jefferson. He's on the boat, by the way, listening to us. Jefferson, rub it in.
Nice
but he does say you kick ass while he's on a boat. So
thank you, sir.
We'll take it, but it's, don't think that we're not having some we want to be on the boat thoughts. What is your opinion on who will be the MVP of the Texas A&M game on both sides of the ball? Quarterback. It's the easiest answer.
Yeah. Quarterback or receiver immediately jumps to mind. I think both teams have, by the time we get there, I think it's a quarterback or a receiver going into the game that will make a play or series of plays that make the difference.
By the way, this isn't anything new because I know this was talked about on Orange Bloods Live last week.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about him a lot. Hearing some things about Silas Bolden. Had a conversation today about Silas Bolden.
Uh-huh.
Chad, our guy.
Yeah.
Because we're the founding members of the fan club.
Yes, we are.
Our guy's doing it now. I'm just letting you know.
I'm not shocked. I am not shocked. And I think he will definitely be a part of things. Thank you for that first super chat. If you want to get us a super chat, it will go right to the front of the line, just like Jefferson's did. We've got other good chats that we will get to as well. Let's also get some of our great partners out there. Get them some love. Let me get you sleeping better. Sinus and snoring specialists can do it for you. Allergies, sinus headaches, all the snoring and sleep apnea issues you may have. We're about to hit vacation season. Don't go traveling to these incredible places with your family, friends, or whatever, and then sleep like crap. There's nothing worse than being tired and worn out on your vacation. You want to be ready to go. Sinus and snoring specialists can make sure you're ready for everything. Vacation, work days, whatever it is, they'll get you breathing better and feeling better. Dr. Slaughter's been doing this over 20 years. It's the latest in ear, nose, and throat. Finally get it taken care of. They got all kinds of cool stuff to help you out. If you've heard about Inspire, be sure to ask them about that because it may be perfect for you. But if not, they'll find out what's perfect for you. Sinus and snoring specialists feel clear, rested, and healthy.
I got breaking news for you, Chad.
Breaking news. Hit me.
The University of Texas has announced
Yeah.
They changed baseball coaches. No, I'm just kidding. Pitbull coming to a concert next year at the SEC celebration.
Wow. How dare you tease?
Pitbull's in town.
There you go. Now I know why someone asked earlier on the chat if you were going to head down to the Pitbull show on SEC Day. Does that make you want to come to town on June 30th?
It makes me want to stay away.
Oh, okay. All right. Just
what is Pitbull's street cred right now?
I do not know. You could probably tell me more than I could tell you. I have absolutely no clue. No clue. We've had some great chats coming in. I think I got 10 of them marked right now. So we're going to try to hack through these. Michael says, here's why I'm not as worried about A&M. 1, Texas has gone into hostile stadiums, Bama, and won. 2, the only losses last year happened when the opposing quarterback went Superman, Gabriel and Penix. So obviously not a lot of respect for Weigman and Kyle Field in that one. Catch also. That's
going to be a theme, Chad, just so you know.
Oh, going to be. No, there's no doubt. How about this one? Speaking of respect, what do you think about this one, Catch? Weigman equals Stephen McGee.
I mean, they're just not the same thing at all. Weigman's more talented than McGee, but McGee was so tough, so available. You know, I mean, Weigman McGee brought the fight to other teams, sometimes maybe too much. That's not who Weigman is. I've never thought of Connor and Stephen McGee as the side-by-side comparison.
Yeah, that's interesting too. And Michael, I sense you meant that as a Stephen McGee joke. Stephen McGee has a win in Austin that you do not want to talk about. And was he also the quarterback in 07, Catch?
Yes.
I mean, that's weird.
McGee's class of 2004.
Yeah, so I think he would have been both of those games.
Yeah.
Those inexplicable Mac Brown still has to wake up in a sweat losses to A&M. How about this one, Catch? This might explain some of the lack of worry. Elko and Sark have already gone head-to-head as coordinators. Jerry, that's an interesting point, and maybe that's what it is, Catch. Texas fans know that at Alabama, when Sark's calling plays, he faced Elko as the DC at A&M, and Alabama handled those games because those two were not the issue when A&M got the win in College Station. If I'm not mistaken, I'd have to go back and double check. But yeah, that's Sark's already in Austin by then. So that's Jerry's angle on this of why there might not be worry. So I get that because those Alabama teams did handle the Elko A&M defenses to an extent. Yes. I got it. I get you.
By the way, Stephen McGee, in that he was the quarterback of that 06 game.
Yes.
That's Texas fans that should be my 85% for game predictions. I'll never forget. I wasn't doing daily radio yet.
Uh-huh.
So God, it might have even been you might have even been hosting the show.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I remember going on the radio in 2006, the day before the game, and basically declaring that game would be an ass kicking, that the Longhorns would win that game by 5 touchdowns. And
they should have.
Well, the should part doesn't matter. They didn't.
Right. I know. No.
What happened versus what did happen were two different things.
Yeah, the toughness element you bring up, it was the key to that whole game. The Aggies created a bar fight that the Longhorns were not ready for in 06. I still can't believe that game. I still can't believe it occurred the way it occurred. And the Aggies really could only win one kind of game that day, and it's the exact game they played. And Texas somehow couldn't find – all you needed to win that game was what, 16 points, 17, something like that? The score was like 13-7 or whatever the hell it was.
I think so. The thing about that game, we didn't take quarterback injuries as serious in 2006 as we do now. Because as that game evolved, it became very clear, Colt McCoy doesn't need to be on the field.
Yeah, you're right. That was the Michael Bennett?
That was the Michael Bennett game.
Right. And there's another hit later that got talked about for different reasons. But the hit that really shook Colt was that one, was the Bennett.
And I think in 2024, Jevin Sneed just starts that game at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I don't know how that game plays out if Snead plays. Like maybe Texas a little bit more.
Thank you, Rex. 12-7. Yeah.
Like the Texas team, they go into Kansas State and that game unfolds the way that it does. And I think it's one of the few times I think in Mac Brown's career where he blinked and kind of got pressured into the moment. I've always wondered what would have happened if Colt doesn't start that game. They lost that game in part because Colt McCoy was like half the version of a healthy Colt McCoy, and it cost them the game, I think. Anyway.
Yeah.
You bring up Stephen McGee, and it's hard not to think about, when he was talking smack in that 08 game, it's because he'd won 2 of the previous 3.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. He thought he had a little bit of reason to talk. We got good chats coming in on this discussion. How concerned are you, Texas fans, about the Aggies? How dangerous do you think they could be? We're getting some good comments in on that. Let me also try to make you hungry with Hayes City Store. We do the show around lunchtime every day, and there's not a day where I'm not hungry for some Hayes City Store. If you haven't been out there, or maybe you haven't been recently, get on out there. Tell them we said hello. Tell them you heard about it on Orange Bloods Live. They're out there in Driftwood, right between Kyle and Wimberley. It is a reasonable trip from wherever you're coming from, but no matter how long your trip, it's always worth it. Hayes City Store is a little over an hour from where I'm sitting right now, and it don't matter. I'd go there for just gravy and a chicken fried steak and come back home perfectly happy. Go check out that chicken fried steak or the great burgers or the legendary enchiladas or any of the other great food and drink and desserts and all the good stuff they've got for you. Hayes City Store out there in Driftwood. And a shout out to Hayes City Store and Taste on Main. They'll be our presenting sponsors for the SEC Media Days in July.
Sorry about that. Reality is that is an old buy or sell question.
Old buy or sell. I didn't even see it. No sweat. All right. Let me see what we got here. Some of these chats, we'll clear them off. Jared says Kyle Field is going to be maybe the loudest stadium of all time that night. Jared, it will be quite a scene. Someone else earlier said, David says we should be careful to underestimate A&M. Right now, I'm unsure of their identity, but any rivalry can be dangerous. Certainly that one can. Someone says, my concern is the level of aggression A&M and OU play with against Texas. OU's D-line dominated us and sacked Quinn so many times. Vivek, that's certainly a team that stood up to Texas last year. Catch our guy Cody Carpentier had a video on the YouTube on the Orange Bloods Live page about 5 games that he thought were big in the country. And when he mentioned Texas OU, he said that the ranked, what did he say? The favored team, I think it was, is 6-5 in the last 11 games, something like that. The higher ranked team. So we know those things are always close and crazy. And we'll see if the Aggies are bringing that kind of fight by the time we get to November, or if they're just, if they're still going to need a little bit to get back to wherever, Texas level is. Vivek, it's a good point to bring up. Jerry says if you combine Texas offense with the Aggies defense, they would be unstoppable.
Jerry, come on. Texas is neither the Miami Dolphins of 1985 nor are the Aggies the Chicago Bears defense of 1985. Let's slow down a little bit.
Yeah, I like unstoppable though. It's good.
Georgia would have no chance.
Georgia would have no shot. Someone else qualifying their quarterback comment. Michael says it's not
real quick, Chad.
Yeah.
If Jerry's right, then A&M should concern Texas.
Absolutely. If
A&M goes into that game with a defense that would be unstoppable against everybody else in the country, well, boy, suddenly the A&M game feels a little different than we're talking about it.
Yeah, and I'll keep reminding people that you brought up the talent part, plus they just brought in a head coach that's a defensive guy and not a maniac. They just had a maniac.
Better on defense.
Oh, my God. They had a maniac calling defense for that team. And, Michael, they will not have that. But Michael says, it's not that I don't respect him, Chad. I'm just saying Weigman isn't Gabriel or Penix. It's not an insult, just facts. And at this point, Michael, we've seen a lot more of those other two guys, and I totally get you. I totally get what you're saying. Because it's not, you can't make that comparison with Weigman. We just saw little bits and pieces, and as Ketch pointed out, in a game that mattered so much to A&M, a game where they had to make it a track meet, they couldn't keep up with Miami defensively, and 33 was not near enough to win the game, and Weigman threw 2 big interceptions.
Can I ask you a weird question?
Sure.
Where Texas has come, where they are perceived to be now versus where they were 12 months ago is fascinating to me, because you're getting comments like, well, Weigman's not either Michael Penix or Dylan Gabriel.
Right.
This is a Texas team that less than 2 years ago lost to Donovan Smith. Are we at a point where I guess my question to you is Texas just never going to lose another game to a Donovan Smith-like quarterback? Is that where Sarkisian has this program where if it's not Penix and it's not Dylan Gabriel, Texas is going to win the game?
I mean, I think if you're a Texas fan, obviously you'd love for that to be the expectation. I think we're going to need to see, some things play out. That's why of all these early season games, Catch, Texas Michigan is so crucial to a lot of discussion. Just like A&M Notre Dame, I think Texas Michigan is going to be a game where it is going to get overcooked and undercooked big time. Whoever loses that game is going to get pushed too far down, and whoever wins it will get way too much love for whatever they just did. So, because I've said it before, and obviously we're talking about the whole A&M discussion today. Aggies are in this category, but Catch, so is the rest of the SEC. Every crazy caller to Paul Feinbaum is just waiting for Michigan to beat Texas so they can call in the next Monday or Tuesday and say what? They're pretenders, flash in the pan. They're not ready. Just wait till the SEC gets up. It's just going to line up if they lose that game. So that's going to be, and that's a perceived team that's not on Texas's level. I know they just won the Natty, but the perception is they lost too much. And people are expecting Texas to go in there and win. That one, fans have told us they think that one is a blowout win for Texas. We've had fans tell us they think Texas is going to walk into the big house and go like 35-14 on Michigan. So there's that's the expectation level. So yes, I think there are Texas fans that think unless you have an elite of the elite quarterback to fight against Texas, the Longhorns are going to win those games every time. Yes, I think that's the perception.
It's also funny to think about the Michigan game. That was it being moved away from a home game for Texas to a road game for Michigan was part of what opened the door for Texas to be in the SEC in 2024.
That's right.
So,
I forgot about that.
It's funny to look at that game and realize it didn't have to be at Michigan, but it did if kind of everything else that's going to take place in 2024 is going to take place in 2024. Remember, that was Texas rubbing the belly of TV providers to try to make an early departure. And, there was some stuff that went on there. And that Michigan game being in Ann Arbor, I don't even know what to make of that game. There's a part of me that just thinks, thing is, I think we all think Texas is going to be a juggernaut on offense. And maybe they will. But will they by week 2 of the season? Yeah. What will the Texas offense be by the time it goes to College Station is a completely different animal, I think, than what should we expect of Texas in week 2 in Ann Arbor? Because on paper, Michigan shouldn't be able to hang with Texas.
Yeah, that's a great point.
But yeah. I think that's because we've got a vision of what Texas is on offense that I don't know completely exists yet.
Well, Yeah, remember last year when we talked about that Texas might be catching Alabama at a good time. Go to Tuscaloosa early. Michigan might be doing the same thing. Catch Texas early. Have them come to you early on in the season. And it's interesting as we go back to thinking about this November matchup. By the time we get to College Station, those two teams are one thing. But catch, when one of them goes to the Big House and the other goes to the Swamp, they may not be close to what they're going to be. What does Weigman look like that day in the Swamp? New offensive coordinator, new coaching staff, new everything. But then what does Quinn look like as he's trying to get used to newer receivers for him and replacing the guys on defense and replacing what they lost on offense and all that stuff? So those are going to be, that's 2 weeks in a row. Texas goes to Michigan first. A&M goes to Florida the very next weekend. And like you said earlier about A&M, by the time we hit that September 15th mark, you and I will be able to have a discussion about the two teams.
Oh, yeah.
Completely different than what we would obviously have going into, game one.
Well, because I want to say, look, if it takes 30 points to win the game in Ann Arbor, then Michigan might be screwed. I wonder about that offense's ability to turn in that type of game. But Michigan legitimately has the type of defense that Jerry was mentioning earlier. Oh, if you could pair, I think you'd probably more reasonably say if you could pair the Texas offense with the Michigan defense, you might have a team that would be unstoppable in 2024. That Texas offense going to Michigan is not the group that went to Tuscaloosa and won that game by double digits.
Yeah.
There's no Xavier Worthy. There's no Adonai Mitchell. There's no Jordan Whittington. There's no Jatavian Sanders. There's no Jonathan Brooks. There's a lot. When we talk about that Alabama game and we start talking about, remember when Texas got the ball and they just ran the ball on Alabama and they just decided they weren't going to give it back? That was Jonathan Brooks. That was right at the cusp of when we were going, Jonathan Brooks is really good.
Yeah,
and
you're right.
Texas has talent everywhere. But I think as they ended the spring, I think there was an acknowledgement, okay, Texas offense isn't there yet. Well, they're probably not there yet now either. The question will be when we get to September and then into October, when do they find their groove? I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. It's one of the things that makes the Michigan. If they played that Michigan game in the middle of the season, I think I would 100% believe, okay, Texas is going to be really good by October.
Yeah, here's my question for the Michigan game. I would agree with anybody that says if Texas, you said 30. If Texas scores 35, they're winning that game easily. Here's my question. Sure. My question is, if that game ends 20-17, is Texas equipped in September to do that? Can they be the one with 20?
Yes, but that's a 50-50 game, and so your footing is very precarious. I think they're in a position to win that game, primarily because they do, I think, have faith in their place kicker. That in a 20-17 game, if the game's going to be decided by 3 points, I think they like their 3-point maker. I don't even know what Michigan has at kicker. I got to be completely honest. But
I don't know either.
I know Texas will go into that game with a veteran quarterback. By the way, suddenly Quinn Ewers gets to be veteran quarterback. He's never been that before.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's going into his third year as a starter. Veteran quarterback, experienced kicker. Michigan, whatever they'll be, it won't be experienced veteran quarterback. They could be a couple of different things, but they don't bring that. I think that's the question for Michigan. They'll feel like naturally their style of play means they'll be ready for that type of game. But in a 20-17 game, what you're really asking yourself is, with 5 minutes to go in the game, do you trust your quarterback's ready to win that game?
Yeah.
I think Texas has an advantage, but 20-17 is still 20-17. And it means with 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, the outcome is still in dispute. And when you're the road team in college football, that little bit of that very fine margin oftentimes is the thing that'll cause a slip up. And when we say, could Texas be 9-2 going into the A&M game? Could that be a battle of 9? Well, that's one of the ways that Texas could get to a 9-2.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And then it's about, is that game literally, could that game boil down to the winner probably gets in the playoff and the loser is probably out of it? That would be absolutely wild. By the way,
it might not be probably, but that 9-3 team, Chad, might be we've talked about this a lot. There's going to be maybe 1 or 2 9-3 SEC teams.
Yeah.
That feel like they should be in,
but they won't know for sure.
And they could finish 13th or 12th or whatever the cutoff line ends up being.
Yep.
A year ago, didn't we do it with Oklahoma? That if there had been a playoff, Oklahoma would have got left out by 1 spot.
Correct.
And it could be, I fully believe that the last team out for the SEC in the tournament, the 12-team tournament, I fully believe the highest ranked team that won't get in will be a 3-loss 9-3 SEC team. That they'll have to draw a line, but there will be people who say this 9-3 team is better than this 10-2 team. It's playing in the SEC. This other team played in whatever conference. It could be the loser of the Texas A&M game is that team. They're 9-3, and somebody's trying to make an argument that, hey, look, the only games that they lost were at Michigan and then at home against Georgia. That would be the Texas side of things. But with A&M, it could be, hey, they only lost to Notre Dame or Missouri, or the games were early. Like, there's a lot of different ways to spin that. But it's not impossible to think that Texas and Texas A&M, the winner is in and the loser
is precarious.
Is trying to do that Mac Brown 2004 sales pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. And there'll be a lot of rivalry games late that'll have that same feel. By the way, Jay, I am so sorry we didn't hit your super chat earlier. I saw it. We've been rambling on. Sorry. $5. If you all could be any size and weight and play any position for UT, A&M for Chad, what size would you be in which position? That's a wild question.
I mean, I feel like I'm 6'4", 210 playing quarterback for Texas. I am having sex every day with a different woman if that's the case.
Jay, go look up whatever size and weight Quentin Coriat was the night he did that in Fort Worth. That's what I'll be. I'll be that size and I'll be that position. That's what I want to do.
What size was Matt Nordgren? Can I be him in college?
Yeah. Okay. Hey, if you're the exact size and shape of Matt Nordgren, you're also getting those dates you're talking about. So
that's what I'm saying.
That really would work out for you, Jay. We appreciate it. Again, I'm sorry that took a second or two.
I just kind of feel like I want to play quarterback. I don't need to be good. I just want to play quarterback.
Somebody brought up an interesting question about the Michigan game. Can you imagine week 2, 11 a.m. in Austin for Michigan in 100-degree heat? Geez. Texas TV, I agree. And that's exactly what Texas should beg for next year, Catch. Like, if that's what they should do, they should turn it back around and tell Fox, like, okay, if y'all are going to grab that game again because it's Michigan at Texas, let's go 11 a.m. again because we like where that heat will be at about 1 o'clock.
It doesn't even be at 11.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what they call September in Austin? Summer. Yeah. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
they take that from somebody who is sat on the west side of the stadium in October. Yeah. October is still 100 degrees, but you're just so thankful that it's not September.
Yeah, you're right. Texas TV, we appreciate that. Catch, before we do anything else, why don't you tell the good folks about My Perfect Franchise and what Andy can do for them?
Andy Ludicky, the man with a plan. Look, you may not have the plan to begin the business that you've dreamed of, whatever it might be. Maybe you want to be a florist. Maybe you're a painter, but you'd like to start your own business. Whatever the case may be, you need a plan. You need to know where to start. You need to know how to get everything set up. And sometimes that's really difficult. If I stopped running Orange Bloods, I'm not completely sure I know every single step to launch a new endeavor. That's where Andy comes into play. He will help you do exactly that. And look, he's not trying to money grab you here. This is, will it work out? Can he help you? Can he show you that he's helping you? And then you can start talking about, money and how much it costs. But first things first, do you guys mesh? There's only one way to find out. That's either email Andy Andy at myperfectfranchise.net, or text or call him 404-973-9901. It's right there on the screen. Let that be like, look, you want to make like a great decision once a day, once a week, a truly great decision. Make it easy for yourself. Call Andy up. Let that be your great decision. And the rest of the week, you're riding a free one. That's my advice, Chad.
There you have it. Riding a free one sounds like a good idea. That sounds good all by itself. Whatever that means. I like.
Well, it's like get your great idea. Call Andy. Yeah. Great idea number one out of the way. You know what it is. You're playing with house money the rest of the week. Anything else? If you give another great idea or do another great thing, you're really winning life at that point.
All right, we are cleaning off some chats here. A lot of good stuff coming in today on this A&M discussion.
I like my buy or sell for the record.
Oh, beautiful. Mark says rivalry game's always a toss-up. I've been in Dallas where Texas or OU have maybe one or two wins, and they win the game. Aggie game will be probably bigger than their bowl game for them. I mean, unless it's
as long as there's not a playoff spot on the line.
Right. If it's not a playoff game, you're absolutely right, Mark. I mean, you're absolutely correct about what that game would be. Somebody else says another parallel between OU and A&M. Elko and Venables feel similar in terms of impact on the D and their ceiling, but Venables feels like a better recruiter. I guess they both do have that right now, a defensive-minded head coach that, frankly, Texas fans aren't buying catch as a number one. I think that might be maybe a way to say it. Texas fans feel like A&M and OU have hired twos that can't be ones.
I think that's probably right.
Yeah. Michael, thank you for that chat.
Texas fans should know they hired Charlie Strong. They've been there, done that. Some lessons you have to learn, like Apollo Creed said in Rocky IV, the hard way.
I like this one from Shane. How can a cupcake schedule even justify making the playoffs? Aggie has the ultimate cupcake schedule. Well, Shane, when has that ever mattered in college football? I mean, when has the schedule in college football ever mattered to that degree? I mean, I guess if you're talking about, do you get in the backside of a playoff? Maybe a schedule would come on.
Keep in mind that like they win enough games, you get yourself into the SEC championship game.
Yeah.
And that brings an entirely new set of potential problems. If you're a 10-2 team, but you end up taking a loss and become 10-3 at the hands of Georgia, are you out? Does it behoove you to not make the SEC championship game, be 10-2, and you're safely in somewhere in the tournament? Mm-hmm. As opposed to you pick up that third loss and now, I don't know. Like, I can't wait for this season. It's going to be so much fun.
Oh, no, it's going to be bananas. And then you get to that weird math catch of which is the type of team that will play 17 games. If you go to the championship game, that's your 13th game, right? You'd play 12, play 13. Then if you lose and you're still in the playoff, you'd play 14, 15, 16, and 17 because you don't get the break. But if you go to the championship game and win, you get a week off, and then you only have to play 3 more. So it's like what you want to play is 16 games. That's what you want.
Entire football team, if you're either the Longhorns or the Aggies,
right? And
you play that game, then a championship game, and then a first playoff game. That's back to back to back. Everything you have invested, and I guess it sucks to be you at that point.
Yeah.
Did you have the wrong combination of games?
By the way, real quick super chat. I think I did maybe have something wrong. Hooked $5 says, Chad, we're playing Ohio State in Columbus next year. That's a good thought. I'd forgotten it. They separated those games, right? They're not going. Michigan's not coming back to Austin until like 27.
I believe that is correct. Yes.
That's it. Yeah. Move stuff around. My bad. Thank you, Hooked. I appreciate that. We appreciate all those super chats. Before we hit buy or sell, let me tell you another thing that we appreciate around here, and that is audio visual consultations. Whether it's Texas playing Michigan or Ohio State or A&M or whoever else, Texas fans, how about Colorado State? You're 80 days away from that. This is the place that can set you up with the movie room, the game watching room, the multiple screens that you've always wanted. You want to follow NFL Sunday Ticket. Like maybe you saw the YouTube TV version and you thought, oh my God, this 4-screen setup is great. My screen's not big enough though. Let AV Consultations handle that. 255-8678. Let them get the TV for you. Don't go run into a big box store where you can't get as good a deal as they can. Let them handle all of it for you. They've got the very latest in smart TVs, the Sonos audio equipment you're going to want, all the stuff, all the bells and whistles. Let them handle it. AV Consultations, 255-8678. All right. Ketch reported earlier that he did have his buy or sell done. Ketch, are you ready to buy or sell today, or do we need to get something else in?
No, let's do it.
All right. Who's first?
I'll go first today.
Hit it.
I like my questions. I don't know that they're stop the presses, but we'll see. Buy or sell number one.
All right.
If you're going to see Pitbull in concert, you'd have to do it in Miami and not in Austin.
Yeah, buy. I mean, in a perfect world, yes. Certain people feel like they belong in certain places. Yes. If I was ever going to crack the seal on Pitbull, because I've never seen Pitbull live, yeah, I'd want to do it in Miami if I could. Absolutely.
I just don't get Pitbull. Buy or sell number two. Now, I ask this next question with the parameters being what they are. Okay.
Okay.
So push comes to shove, buy or sell. You'd rather watch the Aggies in the College World Series than the Mavs down 2-0 in the finals.
At this point, I'll buy. Yes.
Okay.
Because of the Mavs situation, yes. If you're talking about like the next games that are coming up, yeah, I'll forego the Mavs game.
What if it was 0-0?
If it's 0-0, boy, that's tough.
Way to go, Kyrie. You've totally shaken Chad's belief in wanting to watch the Mavs.
Yeah, if it was 0-0, it'd be a different discussion. But right now, I'll take the Aggies.
I can't believe I wrote this next question down, but here it is. Buy or sell number three. Jerry West died today at the age of 86. Rest in peace, Jerry. You believe that Michael Jordan should be the league's logo?
Wow, that is a wonderfully bizarre question to ask on this particular day. I'm going to sell. I believe the league should have multiple logos. I think there's enough guys.
Ooh, I kind of like that idea.
I think there's enough guys that have made their statements. I think you could have Jordan. Maybe the Flying Jordan is a logo. Hell, a Tim Duncan post-up move could be a logo. The sky hook should be a logo. Allen Iverson's crossover should be a logo. I think there's certain things you could discuss and rotate it around, and it would say NBA, but you could use different logos for different things. But to the point of your buy or sell, if it had to be another image, hell yes, it's Jordan flying through the air.
Okay. Interesting answer. I wasn't expecting that. Buy or sell number four. Florida is the SEC team that everybody isn't respecting, that they probably need to start respecting a little bit more. Or is there a different SEC team that's not being respected that needs to be respected a little bit more? I think I said that because of Graham Mertz and the stats.
Yeah, I think there's two of them. So I'm going to sell. And I think anyone not respecting Ole Miss and Missouri are missing it. I think those two teams need respect. I don't feel like they're getting it enough. If you've got full respect for those two, Florida might be on that next level, yes. But you got to make sure you're getting that Ole Miss and Missouri thing covered, because those two quarterbacks I think are really good. Those two teams feel real to me. And I think they're a test for anybody that has to play them.
And I've got a 1990s R&B edition of Hotter Than.
Oh, I like it. Okay.
And I do this one out of respect for the Dallas Mavericks being in the NBA Finals.
Oh, here we go.
Buy or sell number five. Prime on prime hotter than, whatever you think that might be. Wow. Mariah Carey is hotter than Toni Braxton.
Man, oh man. There's a battle. Oh, goodness. Mariah Carey is hotter than Toni Braxton. Prime on prime. Just two gorgeous, incredible women. But the image I can't get out of my brain is the Unbreak My Heart video. I'm going to sell and go Toni Braxton.
Wow.
That video is stuck in my mind right now more than any Mariah Carey image. So I'm going to go with Toni Braxton.
I'm going to sell. I'm going to buy.
Mariah. You're going to buy. You're going Mariah.
I'm buying very early pre-enormous boob Mariah.
Okay, fair enough. pre-enormous boob Mariah, which
She
sounds
got
like
to be enormous boob Mariah, and then I'm flying Tony Braxton Airlines.
yeah. For the record,
Prior to the big boobs, I was very team Mariah.
a lot of people don't know this, Catch. Pre-enormous boob Mariah is the working title for at least 10 Eminem songs. A lot of people don't know that. All right, let's buy or sell, and we'll start with Texas football, Catch. By December, Caleb Chester will be a 4-star.
Buy. Yeah.
Okay.
Buy. I don't even quite know what to say other than I think he's already really close. So that's not a big leap forward. And I think that's probably the right space for him. But people don't want to hear this, but I kind of think of a low 4-star and a high 3-star. The only difference between the two is the low 4-star has a good press agent. Mm-hmm. And maybe Caleb Chester, because he's a Texas commit, because of his offer list and the discussions that will take place now, everything will be reframed now that he's committed. And I do think at least one ranking service is going to look at his body of work, do another review of him, and say, you know what? Maybe we're just off a smooch on him. And then I think he gets the bump up.
All right. And by the way, Caleb Chester will join us on the recruiting hour this afternoon. 4:15, the scheduled time. We'll start at 4:15 for Caleb Chester if you want to check it out. Catch, buy, or sell number 2. Scotty Scheffler will win 2 majors this year.
Sell.
Wow. Okay. Just going to stay at 1.
It's so hard.
Got 2 coming up.
I feel like it's this. My heart says yes.
Okay.
My heart says, yeah, he's just going to go out and he'll win the U.S. Open this weekend. And that it's just so much harder. Plus, he's got a record now. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen between now and when he tees off on Thursday or Friday. He could be out causing trouble after midnight.
Did you hear the line that Rory McIlroy got off about Scheffler?
No.
It was brilliant. They asked about how Scheffler's playing, what impresses you the most? And he said, I guess the most impressive part is the only real time he's really lost is when he had to spend an hour in a jail cell and everybody just died. It was good stuff. Yes, U.S. Open coming this weekend. And before we get done today, I got some crazy stats on Scheffler to drive it home for you Longhorn fans and golf fans. All right, Catch, let's go to the world of football, sort of. Buy or sell number 3. The UFL championship game is on Sunday, 4:00 on Fox, and you can give me the matchup.
I can't, but I can guess.
Please do.
Birmingham Stallions against the Orlando Breakers.
That was well done. Well done on the second team. A team you knew existed and a team you knew used to exist. That is great. You're half right. Birmingham Stallions and the San Antonio Brahmas, they will be meeting for the UFL title. Wade Phillips has a chance to win a championship, kids, if you want to root for such things.
All right, close. Close.
Buy or sell number 4. Marv Albert is 83 years old today. He is on your play-by-play Mount Rushmore.
He's on my biting women Mount Rushmore.
Yes. Right on the back.
Oh, how, Marv got out of that actually okay. That whole biting and all of the other stuff that was going on with that.
I have never wished for a witness to actually be a part of a trial more than that one. Kids, go look up the Marv Albert trial. It's one of the greatest endings to a trial that we should have had a better ending. But it is one of the craziest endings of like, wait, what do you mean we don't get to hear testimony? And then it was just done.
Marv might deserve to be on the Mount Rushmore, but I don't know that if you said Catch put together a Mount Rushmore of announcers, I don't think Marv would be in my first 4 or 5. So I'm going to sell.
Okay, fair enough.
But I don't have a Mount Rushmore in mind, so I would need to think about it a little bit. But I'm not the biggest. Marv's good. Marv was always good.
Right.
It was never like, oh shit, Marv Alberts is calling the game. I'm in. He didn't ever have that impact on me.
So speaking of Mount Rushmores, this next birthday would be on my Mount Rushmore of pro wrestling big men, and he is one of our favorites, and he's a big Longhorn fan. Buy or sell number 5. Today is Mark Henry's birthday, Catch. If we could go back and give him one more match, you'd pair him up with Andre the Giant. One more match for the world's strongest man. Put Mark in his prime, put the other wrestler in his prime. Who do you want to see Mark go head-to-head with one more match?
I mean, are we allowed to bring people back from the dead?
Absolutely. Well, yeah, of course, I'm doing it here. Andre's not with us anymore. Yes. True. Their prime, Mark's prime, whatever you want.
You know, yeah, I'll buy a lion versus a tiger. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
I wonder if you gave that question to Mark, what his answer would be.
Yeah, I would. The reason I did that is I'm assuming next time we talk to Mark, we'll ask him. I would assume Andre, especially if you could do like the younger Andre, the Afro Andre that was a lot more mobile.
No, dude, it's prime on prime. Mark, you can have any wrestling match in history against anybody.
Yeah,
because who would it be? What are the conditions?
Because here's the key. Andre was so kind to certain guys that he knew were really good. Catch, you could come up with a spot in that match where Mark Henry could pick up Andre the Giant and do something no one had ever seen before or would ever see again, and it would make Mark even more of a legend than he already is. Like he could have power bombed Andre the Giant theoretically.
Look, man, all I know is Mark Henry has picked me up in real life.
I know.
Pressed me over his head. And there's no bigger helpless feeling than when another man has you up in the air, pressed above their head in the air. Not a whole lot you can do at that point other than hope that he doesn't drop you and hurt you.
Pray that he keeps the balance, right? Because then you probably were thinking, I don't need to move, right? If I start
you, it's being genuinely helpless. In the hands of another man's hands. It's a wild feeling.
No, he's incredible. Happy birthday to you, Mark Henry, and we will get you on the show at some point before the season and get your thoughts on this Texas football team.
That wasn't my 15 minutes of fame.
What's that?
Mississippi was. But thankfully, just me being airlifted above Mark Henry's head wasn't the thing that people remember me for.
All right, before we get out of here, a couple of things. First off, thanks to all of you. We have hit another little milestone. We're over 19,200 on the subscribers for Orange Bloods Live. And for some reason, it went away. Did you take it away? I was going to give the people some love. I made a little graphic for them.
I don't know. I didn't do anything.
Oh, my bad. Okay, 19,200 subscribers. Thank you very much for that. We appreciate you. And Catch, real quick before we get out of here, I got a quick little stat dump for you. And part of it is Scotty Scheffler. I saw this on Sports Center, and I could not resist showing it to you. Look at this chart. It's Scotty and Tiger, kids. Most wins as the world number 1 on the PGA Tour. Look at all those Tiger Woods. That's stupid. Scotty's just got 5 wins on the year, which puts him on this list. Tiger in 2001, 9 tournaments in a single year. That is absolutely crazy. But here's the other one. And like it says there, he's won 5 before the end of June. Here's another number that jumped out to me, Catch. Scheffler is the only golfer other than Tiger to win the Masters, the Players, and the Memorial in the same season. They're the only ones. But he's also the first guy to win 5 tournaments by the time the U.S. Open is played since 1980. That clearly goes way back past Tiger. Tom freaking Watson is the last guy that did that. Shout out to Scotty Scheffler for that one. Also, Catch, tonight is game 3 of the NBA Finals, correct? In Dallas, Mavs and Celtics. Let me give you a little bit of a key to the series. Kristaps Porzingis has some weird, strange injury that they came up with, and he might not play tonight. Catch, in this series, When he is not on the floor, the score is dead even. When he is on the floor, the Celtics lead 103-78.
Wow.
There you have it. There's the difference in this game tonight. Plus, Luka's got like 9 injuries at once on his body to deal with as we get ready for Game 3 of the NBA Finals. There we go. There's the stat dump. Anything else we need to hit, Catch?
No, I'm good.
Okay, let me just do a quick scan. Make sure we didn't have any late super chats. I think the most recent super chat we did. Folks, that was Hooked On, reminding us that Texas is at Ohio State next year. All right, like, subscribe. Thank you for getting your notifications. As I mentioned earlier, recruiting hour at 4. We're scheduled to talk to Caleb Chester, the latest Longhorn commit, at 4:15. And then tonight on The Outsiders at 8:30, we'll continue the branding discussion for you Texas fans. What brands are worthy of the Texas attention? If you're going to start throwing stuff on jerseys and stuff on the field, what are those brands that are in that discussion? We'll get into that tonight with the Outsiders crew at 8:30. Everybody have a good rest of your Wednesday. Thank you again for all the support. Until tomorrow at noon, we